What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today, I want to share a story, a personal one, about a time in my life when things felt incredibly tough financially. It's a story about setting a seemingly impossible goal and pushing myself to achieve it. It's from a time when my bank account was almost always empty, perpetually hovering near zero. And my dreams, the things I truly wanted in life, felt impossibly far away, like distant stars I could never reach. My monthly salary was just 25,000 rupees. After taxes and basic expenses, there wasn't much left over. I was stuck in a cycle of earning, spending, often on things I didn't really need, and waiting, always waiting, for the next payday to arrive. There was no plan, no strategy for the future, just constant financial anxiety gnawing at me. It felt like I was running in place. The turning point came when I saw a pathetic 3-digit number in my bank account, a stark reminder of my financial situation. This was a week before payday, and I knew I had to make a change. I realized I needed a safety net, something to fall back on, a way out of this soul-crushing paycheck-to-paycheck life that I was trapped in. The idea of saving 1 lakh rupees, 100,000, popped into my head. It seemed like a mountain to climb. It sounded impossible, a completely unrealistic goal given my circumstances, but it became my mission, my obsession. This wasn't just about money, it was about discipline, about proving to myself that I could set a goal and achieve it, no matter how difficult. It was about sacrifice, about making tough choices and saying no to instant gratification, and building a foundation for my future, a future where I had more control and more options. That 1 lakh became a symbol of freedom, freedom from anxiety, the constant worry about money that had been plaguing me for so long. Freedom from emergencies, those unexpected expenses that always seemed to pop up at the worst possible time. And from feeling stuck, trapped in a cycle I couldn't escape. I gave myself 6 months, a crazy, aggressive deadline that seemed almost impossible to meet. It meant a complete life overhaul, a radical transformation of my spending habits and my entire approach to money. It wasn't just a savings plan, it was a complete financial and lifestyle revolution. People said it was impossible on my salary, that I was setting myself up for failure. And honestly, there were moments when I doubted it too, when I wondered if I was being completely unrealistic. But I wanted to prove to myself that I could do it, that I was capable of more than I thought. This journey was about transforming my mindset from scarcity, from always feeling like there wasn't enough, to abundance, to believing that I could create wealth and opportunity. It was about finding wealth not just in what I earned, because let's face it, that wasn't going to change dramatically overnight, but in what I could save, in what I could consciously choose to keep and build upon. I made a promise. 6 months, 1 lakh rupees, no excuses. This was my mantra. Here's how I did it, step by step. I'm going to break down the exact strategies I used to achieve this goal. Alright, let's dive into the nitty-gritty. Let's break down the numbers and see what we're really working with. It's time to face the music and understand where my money was going, and more importantly, where it to go. After taxes and deductions, my in-hand salary was 25,000 rupees. This was the base I had to work with, the foundation upon which I would build my saving strategy. My ambitious goal was to save 1 lakh in just 6 months. To achieve this, I needed to save over 16,000 rupees every month without fail. This was the target I set for myself, a challenging but achievable goal. That left me with just over 8,000 rupees to cover all my living expenses. This was the reality check, the stark realization of how little I had to work with after prioritizing my savings goal. Living in Mumbai, a city known for its high cost of living, that sounded almost impossible. The sheer thought of surviving, let alone thriving on such a limited budget in this bustling metropolis was daunting. My rent alone was 7,000 rupees, a significant chunk of my already meager budget. Finding affordable housing in Mumbai was a constant struggle, and this expense weighed heavily on my financial plan. And then there was the train pass, essential for commuting, costing 500 rupees every month. Public transportation was my lifeline, but it still added to the growing list of unavoidable expenses. With rent and transportation covered, almost all my money was already gone. I was left with a pittance to cover everything else, from food and clothing to personal care and unexpected expenses. It was clear. My budget was a complete mess, a chaotic jumble of expenses and wishful thinking. I needed to get organized and take control of my finances before they spiraled completely out of control. I realized I was mindlessly spending thousands on eating out, a habit that had become far too frequent and expensive. The convenience of ordering food had come at a steep price, and it was time to break this cycle. Weekends were a blur of outings, movies, and random purchases that I didn't really need. These impulse buys were slowly but surely draining my bank account, sabotaging my savings goals. It was undeniable. My lifestyle was way above my means, a dangerous game of financial brinkmanship. I was living a life I couldn't afford, and it was time to face the consequences. The gap between my ambitious savings goal and my current financial reality was massive, a chasm that seemed impossible to bridge. I needed to take drastic action to close this gap and get back on track. I realized that making small cuts here and there simply wouldn't be enough to make a significant difference. I needed a more radical approach, a complete overhaul of my spending habits. To achieve my goal, I needed a total lifestyle change, a complete transformation of my spending habits and priorities. This was no longer just about saving money, it was about changing my entire approach to life. Every single expense, no matter how small, had to be questioned and scrutinized. I needed to challenge every purchase and ask myself if it was truly necessary. Did I really need it, or was it just a fleeting desire? This became my mantra, the question I asked myself before every purchase. I laid out all my bank statements, credit card bills, and receipts, creating a visual representation of my spending habits. By analyzing these documents, I began to see the patterns of waste, the recurring expenses that were draining my resources. I realized that it wasn't the city itself that was inherently expensive, but rather, it was my choices, my spending habits, and my lifestyle that were driving up my expenses. My salary wasn't the problem. It was a decent starting point. The real issue was my spending, my tendency to overspend on unnecessary things. Facing these numbers, confronting the stark reality of my financial situation, was the wake-up call I desperately needed. I knew that I had to cut deep, making significant sacrifices to achieve my savings goal. This wasn't just about trimming the fat. It was about cutting into the muscle, making tough choices to eliminate unnecessary expenses. This was about brutal honesty with myself, acknowledging my weaknesses and taking control of my financial destiny. I set the battleground, preparing myself for the challenges ahead. It was a battle between my bad habits and my ultimate goal, a personal challenge that would test my resolve. The only way forward, the only path to success, was radical change, a complete transformation of my financial habits. The fight had begun, and I was ready to face it head-on, determined to achieve my goal no matter the cost. With reality staring me in the face, I built a zero-tolerance budget. I automated my savings. 17,000 rupees transferred out the moment my salary hit. That left me just 8,000 to survive on. My rent and train pass alone took up most of it. I convinced my flatmates to add another roommate, dropping my rent to 5,000. Now, I had 2,500 for everything else. Groceries got 1,500, basic staples only. Utilities and phone 500. Switched to prepaid, cut down electricity. The last 500 was for emergencies. No eating out, no shopping, no extras. I wrote this budget down and stuck it on my wall. Every purchase had to be justified. Needs only, no wants. This was my financial boot camp. Extreme, yes, but it was the only way. I was all in. The budget was the plan, meticulously laid out with numbers and projections. But a budget alone is just a document. Daily habits, those small, consistent actions, were what transformed that plan into a tangible reality. They were the engine that drove my savings forward. I committed to cooking every single meal at home. This wasn't just about saving money. It was about taking control of what I consumed and nourishing my body with wholesome ingredients. That meant no more takeout or expensive restaurant dining. Those convenient but costly options were completely off the table. Waking up early, even when I didn't feel like it, to pack lunch for the day. This simple act saved a surprising amount of money and ensured I had a healthy meal readily available. And cooking dinner, no matter how tired I was after a long day at work, it required discipline, but it became a non-negotiable part of my routine. Dal, rice and sabzi became my staples, simple yet satisfying. These humble dishes were not only budget-friendly but also incredibly nutritious, and these small changes started saving me thousands each month. It was amazing to see how quickly the savings accumulated. My social life inevitably changed. I had to say no to expensive outings and elaborate entertainment plans. I openly explained my financial goals to my friends, and together, we found free and creative ways to hang out and have fun. I made a conscious effort to cut out impulse buys. I unsubscribed from all those tempting marketing emails, and I even went as far as deleting shopping apps from my phone. I started walking whenever possible, instead of automatically taking autos or cabs. I made it a habit to always carry my own water bottle and refill it throughout the day. I became diligent about slashing electricity use at home. Entertainment was completely reimagined to fit my new budget. That meant saying goodbye to Netflix and other paid streaming services. I rediscovered the joy of borrowing books from the library, and I embraced the wealth of free content available on YouTube. I even started taking advantage of free online learning resources. My weekends transformed from expensive outings to productive and enriching experiences. Every single rupee saved felt like a significant win. This wasn't about deprivation or restriction. It was about redirection and making conscious choices. I realized I was investing my time, energy, and money in my future self. Small daily habits consistently practiced led to a big impact on my savings. The discipline required was undoubtedly tough at times, but the tangible results made it all worthwhile. Ultimately, I was building a new and improved version of myself, one small habit at a time. Cutting expenses wasn't enough. I needed to earn more. I started freelancing as a content writer, taking small gigs after work and on weekends. Every rupee from freelancing went straight into savings. As I improved, my side income grew. I also offered tech help in my building for a small fee. Every bit counted. The hustle was exhausting. Day job, cooking, freelancing late into the night. But seeing my savings grow kept me going. Combining ruthless saving with extra income accelerated my progress. I learned your salary doesn't have to be your only income. Creativity and hard work can open new doors. Every small win added up. The side hustles made the impossible possible. I was determined to reach my goal no matter what. The hardest part wasn't the math. It was the mental battle. Temptation was everywhere. Food outings, FOMO. I kept my goal visible, reminding myself why I started. Visualization helped. Imagining the freedom of 1 lakh in my account. I shared my goal with a friend for accountability. We checked in weekly and his encouragement kept me on track. I celebrated small milestones with simple rewards, a nice chocolate, an hour to relax. Finding joy in the process, not just the outcome, kept me motivated. The journey was tough, but every sacrifice brought me closer. My main tool was a simple Google Sheet, every expense tracked daily. For freelancing, I used a notes app to manage projects and payments. Consistency, not complexity, was key. The day I crossed 1 lakh in savings, I felt unstoppable. It wasn't just about the money, it was about who I'd become. I learned financial freedom is about the gap between earning and spending. Delayed gratification paid off in ways I never imagined. That 1 lakh became seed money for my future. The habits I built, budgeting, tracking, hustling, stayed with me. If you have a small salary and big dreams, it's possible. Be honest about your finances. Create a strict budget. Pay yourself first. Say no to what doesn't serve your goal and find ways to earn more. The path is hard, but the transformation is worth it. Start your journey today. Your future self will thank you.